about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello.
What's up, Niecy?
Hello, Mr. Don.
How you doing, girl?
Okay, finally got finished today installing a new sink and faucet and soap dispenser in my kitchen. That was...
Are you prepared for tonight's Drive Time Sit Rep after doing all that home improvement stuff?
Yeah, well, it was a European, one of these fancy schmancy faucet things, and of course Europeans use very different fittings than we do here in America, so there were some additional challenges, not to mention finding the right sink clips to anchor it, not to mention reattaching the garbage disposal.
Oh, so this was the kitchen sink.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Drive Time Sit Rep, where you
home improvement.
Everything. You get everything, including the kitchen sink.
Yes.
All right, so for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, my name is Don Neuen. I've called in to Denise Simon, my trusted and valued Intel analyst, and she is going to update
and home
me on
improvement person.
Yes, and HGTV girl, and she's going to bring us up to speed on what's going on. I'm actually speaking to you guys from my car. I've just left the office. I'm headed home, and for the next roughly 55 minutes, we're going to be having just a phone conversation that you're a part of, and it's called the Drive Time Sit Rep, kind of a unique radio show. So Denise is going to timestamp the show so that you know when this conversation took place, and we're going to get after it. So, Denise, what time is it?
It is 8:41 p.m. Eastern on the 28th of October in the year of our Lord 2019.
Denise, well done. I would like at this moment to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And Happy Halloween. What are you going to be for Halloween?
We don't do it here. We're retired. We don't do it here.
Oh, are you guys those people that turn your lights off on?
No, it's
Halloween?
just that, first of all, we're gated, and no, but we don't have any kids in this neighborhood that would even think about trick-or-treating. And
do you live in a senior neighborhood? Active seniors?
Well, I mean, it's not a senior neighborhood, but I mean, none of us have any. One neighbor has I think a freshman in high school, but another neighbor's got two very young girls, but I don't know where they trick or treat, but we haven't had trick or treaters since I moved here.
Well, that is something that you and your wonderful husband and Donna and I share. We live on a farm, and nobody has ever come to our house on Halloween. We buy candy every year just in case somebody will, but we eat it all.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Reese's Buttercups.
Donna eats it all. Matter of fact, have you ever seen those little tins that have Danish butter cookies in them?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Ooh, we like them at our house. So let me tell you this. Donna sends me a picture today of an empty tin. All it has are the little paper wrappers in it.
Uh-oh.
She got very busy on the Danish butter cookies that have 27% butter.
Good
They're
to
not
know.
fattening at all. What do you think?
No.
But they are damn good. All right, Denise, let's get after it. Well, the catchword of, at least for me today, around the office was I referred to everyone as a dog.
Good segue, because I'm going to throw out one thing, and that is Conan.
Conan?
That's the name of the dog. It's classified, but now you know.
Oh, all right. I thought you were referencing my smart aleck comment about al-Baghdadi
No.
and referring to him as a dog.
The dog is a Belgian Malinois, and...
You're talking about the dog that's a hero, not the dog that was a coward.
No. We don't care about the dog that was a coward. He sleeps with the fishes. Literally.
Yeah, really.
Because he is buried at sea. But no. Belgian Malinois, who was injured, has been treated, is back on duty. And the picture came out today. The name was still classified, but Denise got it. Conan.
Well, what a hero. That's all I can say.
Normally those dogs
was he
have...
hit with shrapnel, or was he hit with gunfire?
No, shrapnel, because he had chased Baghdadi into the back corners of the tunnel, and that's when he detonated his suicide vest, killing the 3 kids too, by the way.
Right.
But the dog was hit with shrapnel, and they normally have a camera on them, and for some reason they didn't put a camera on Conan. But we had, apparently the Kurds were good enough that they actually had an informant inside the camp. So we knew precisely where he was. Air operations were out of the Al Assad Air Base in Iraq, which was also supposed to be classified. Now you know. Delta Force and some others had been practicing and training for this operation in Erbil. They built a temporary type compound out of what is known as T-walls. They practiced for about a week. We have known about the rough location of Baghdadi since late May. We attempted 3 operations, and they were aborted. They had been given authorization by Trump. We had aborted those 3 different times for various reasons, but we had to do what we did when we did because of all the confusion and nonsense about we're leaving Syria, we're removing our forces, we're moving in tanks, we're doing this, we're betraying this, we're doing all these other kinds of things. And so this was one of those moments like, get them now and let's be done with this. There was also, interestingly enough, and I reported this last night on Matt Bruce's show, as nobody else was talking about it, there was a subsequent operation done about 6 hours later, 5 or 6 hours later, in an adjacent town. And this cat is also dead. This was led by CIA, actually, with their taking the lead on it. But this was the top media aide to al-Baghdadi. So he also sleeps with the fishes. We were, the informant that we had was extracted safely. Apparently, there were also 2 others that were pulled from this operation, what was left over from it, that were alive. So we do have 2 detainees that we have put into a highly classified location to cultivate whatever information we can get there. A successor to al-Baghdadi has already been named, who was a top Iraqi military commander under Saddam Hussein. He actually has been really kind of running things anyway, but he was nominated by Baghdadi, and apparently there was a full vote of the Shura, and so he has also been designated as the official successor, but I would suggest that he's probably dead man walking here pretty soon.
Yeah, I would say so too. He's probably not going to be seen very much anymore.
Correct.
So let me ask you this, Denise. You said something that was a bit troubling to hear, and that is that Baghdadi was buried at sea.
Correct.
Why are we showing that level of respect for Baghdadi?
Because just like we did with bin Laden, we don't want any kind of shrine that is erected wherever he may be buried. So we took body parts, whatever was left of him, and they just buried him at sea like they did bin Laden.
Okay, so that's the real reason. We don't want a shrine.
No, and it's become a routine, correct.
Okay, all right. I wonder if we ought to bring old Dr. James Mitchell in to interrogate these two detainees.
Well, what's kind of interesting to me is it appears that these guys seem to be coughing up the goods pretty quickly. And I think it's because Islamic State, for its territory that it once maintained, is no more. I mean, they have maybe part of a zip code, if you will, in Syria. And in about 17 other countries, you have that ideology. But Mitchell's been through all of that already. You cannot defeat the ideology. I don't know. That's what everybody,
right,
that's what the world leaders are really wrestling with. And that is one of the reasons that these European countries, France and Britain, don't want to take back these detainees that the Kurds are holding, which is about 10,000 of them. So what are we supposed to do with them? Well, I would suggest that we find a fun location, maybe someplace in Somalia or Sudan, and build, some kind of a clone to Guantanamo and have all of these countries flip the bill to keep them detained there forever. Now, that may sound like a Camp Bucca, which is where Islamic State al-Baghdadi originally festered and grew from during the U.S. insurgency, if you will, into Iraq. But we can't keep 10,000 in temporary detainee quarters, if you will, with the Kurds having to babysit them and being prison guards.
Why don't we just stick them on an island someplace?
Well, we can do that too, but
and not, segregate them so that the population is all male, not allow any goats on the property or the island, and eventually they'll extinguish the population because they can't procreate.
Well, here we are. I mean, we have a dilemma.
I'm actually being serious. Why would we not do something like that?
Well, I mean, because then we end up with, in violation of human rights, but blah, 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 blah. You know what George Bush went through.
They can eat nuts and berries and they can build huts. Quite frankly, they might have a better environment to exist in.
Listen, you got to give them halal food, and you got to give them their prayer rugs, and you got to give them a soccer field. So what am I going to?
They can build that stuff. I'm being very serious.
Look, I understand, but this is something that I think that the G7 or the G8 or the G something or others or Davos or some of these other world gathering things with these world leaders, somebody ought to get together and not leave until you decide what to do with these detainees. 10,000 is not a small number by any stretch.
Well, I think anytime we get these G whatevers together, it actually turns more like a G whiz. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree, but it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room that everybody walks around and nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, let's call it let's you and I call this the G whiz summits from now on. Okay?
Yeah, let's put them in North Korea.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Drop them in.
They'd love the weather there, I hear. All right, Niece, you got about 9 minutes before we have to go to that.
Well, then let's talk about something.
Hour break.
now that everybody knows about Conan and the El Asad Air Base and the 8 helicopters and all that, let's talk about something a little bit more interesting, and that is that today, Judge Sullivan, Emmett Sullivan of the U.S. District Court, has canceled General Flynn's hearing that was scheduled for November the 5th. It's been canceled. Now, I would argue we haven't seen the reason why it was canceled. Flynn's set of attorneys, including Sidney Powell and the other two, are waiting to see what the brief was coming back from Sullivan, but you can bet that it came from Flynn's legal team on the motion to compel production of Brady material.
Correct.
So, we don't know where it stands, except that Flynn won't be in court on November the
5th. Read in between the lines on that.
Well, I mean, I just did. You know, it was as a result of her motion to compel, and I think he is still examining the 27-page, I think it was 27 pages, 17, 27, it doesn't matter, the motion to compel, and then they have to give the government, meaning FBI, the deadline date to respond or to argue. So I would say that Flynn's probably not going to have any kind of a hearing in 2019.
Do you feel that this is a positive thing? Because as many of our listeners know, Sidney Powell is a good friend of yours and a good friend of ours. And obviously we are behind her 100% on her efforts to take care of this situation and represent General Flynn. Do you think that she is not pleased to hear this, or that this is...
Oh, she's quite pleased.
It is okay, so this is a positive thing.
Correct.
Awesome.
So where we are is that Flynn's legal team is looking forward to reading Sullivan's order. Not only, I don't know if it was just a sentence that he's canceling the hearing on November the 5th, or the brief that Sullivan would have in compelling the government to turn over all Brady material. Now, what's at issue, and I don't know if you read her briefing. I did.
I did not. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't read all 27 pages of it.
No, it was only 27 pages.
I got a document that was 127 pages long.
Hers wasn't. But okay, but anyway, it will be very interesting to see the argument, because when Flynn had the other law firm, Covington and Burling, I think it was. Anyway, he had actually signed a waiver that he didn't need any more Brady material. So that will be a hurdle, which was addressed in Powell's motion to compel. And we'll see where, the judge takes this one. When that's expected, I do not know. It may take a week.
Cool. Well, it's good that it appears that is good news.
Yes, good news.
Excellent.
And it looks like the entire interview was actually done by Peter Strzok. He had apparently somebody else with him, a special agent by the name of Joe Panetka, but we don't know where Joe is, and we know where Strzok is. So, yeah, we'll see.
Before
Flynn,
we go to the break, we've got. Let me check the time here. We got about 5 minutes before we need to go to break. I really want to get your thoughts on the Durham and the bar situation, and this moving into a criminal investigation. I'd like to get your thoughts on that, as clinical as they may be. Okay.
Okay.
I'm hesitant to get into it now before we go to break because I got a feeling it's going to be more than 4 or 5 minutes of discussion. But do you want to start on that, or do you have something else you'd like to hit me with before we go to break?
No, I can start on it. And, what is misunderstood is that Adam Schiff is actually saying that this is all Barr's doing. It's actually not. Barr accompanied Durham to Italy and as an introduction and really nothing else other than to say to Italy's intelligence and law enforcement people that were over there that did the interrogatories with Mifsud, this is the person that I'm introducing you to. He will be your sole point of contact. And that was really it. But they both heard the audio, because it was also taped, the interrogatories that Italian intelligence had done with Mifsud. And so as a consequence, now Barr has really kind of stepped away and handed it over completely to Durham, and Durham has basically said, yeah, what I see here is criminal. So he made that declaration that it has turned into a criminal case or cases, not Barr.
What was the turning point where they decided to take this to that level?
No, nobody knows.
Because I would, as a lay person, I would assume for this high profile of an investigation to turn to a criminal investigation, these guys have got to have really intense information and evidence. Well,
I will say this, that in this meeting that they had in Italy is when Durham took possession of the 2 BlackBerry phones that were assigned to Mifsud. I think it was Mifsud, wasn't Helper. I think it was Mifsud. Anyway, and those were assigned by FBI. So it appears that the criminal portion of this investigation, which made it go into a criminal status, has to do with at least one person formerly with the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't pointed to Clapper or Brennan yet. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be caught up in this snare. But all indications are that it is at least one FBI'er.
And what did you think, because I know you watched it, it was all over the news this past week, Clapper's body language when he was talking to, I think he was on CNN at the time, talking to Cuomo.
It doesn't get to me. I take all kind of emotions out of it, and I look at things very clinically.
Well, I clinically looked at him, and he looked like he needed a clinic.
All right.
I mean,
Okay.
Did you not pick up the same thing? I mean, Clapper looked like he was very nervous and didn't quite know what to say.
Well, he probably doesn't know what to say here. I would say that he would, anything that comes out of his mouth would be very cautious and very measured, because he doesn't want to burn anybody that he doesn't need to burn, including himself. So he would be very select in his words. And we know what CNN is attempting to do here.
Sure.
But I'm not as worried about Clapper as I am Brennan.
Well, I'd like to see both of them go down as maybe even cellmates. You were saying that Clapper chose his words carefully. He did. He used a lot of and and
he always does. He always does.
Ums and more uhs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Drive Time Sit Rep with Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. We're going to take a quick bottom of the hour break, and we'll be back. You're listening to the Drive Time Sit Rep. back to the Drive Time SITREP. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Don Neuen. You've got on the other end of this phone call one Denise Simon. Before we get into this segment, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of Denise's fine work. You can find and follow her at her website, which is founderscode.com. That's where you can find all of Denise's great work. Why is it great? Well, primarily because she does all of the hard work for us, and she vets everything. You can read her work and know that if you share it or repost it or discuss it with family and friends, she's done all the vetting. You're not sending around and spreading around fake news. So with integrity, you can repost and rediscuss what she writes about. It's an invaluable feature to her website, founderscode.com. We also hope that in addition to listening to the Drive Time SITREP, which you're probably hearing Wednesday night someplace, and throughout the week you can hear the repeat of this show at cowboylogic.us. You also will be able to take advantage and listen to Denise's show, the Denise Simon Experience. That comes on Thursday nights. And Cowboy Logic Radio, the show that Donna and I do, which comes on Tuesday nights. Sometimes Fridays and Saturdays for both of these shows on other radio stations. But at any rate, we hope that you'll check those out and join us for those as well. Denise, let's get back into really whatever you want to talk about, because I haven't looked at news. Danny, the guy that owns the company that I work for, asked me if I'd heard anything about impeachment. I said, look, the inquiry, that's what everybody just keeps talking about. They're taking a vote on the inquiry. He'll probably get impeached. There's a good chance he'll get impeached in the House, but that's as far as it's going to go.
Nancy has declared that she is going to hold an impeachment vote, but I think the impeachment vote is to formally have an impeachment motion coming out of judiciary, and because I don't think they've done that officially. They've done the inquiry, but not the impeachment. And then we'll see if it goes to the full House. So it's really kind of interesting. I have to get some of my glasses on here, because I was actually looking at a review here earlier about impeachment and the causes of civil officers, which obviously includes president and vice president and any other civil officers. But we don't know really what civil officers meant at the time of the Constitution, except that maybe they meant secretaries of government agencies. But now, whatever happens in the House, McConnell over in the Senate has said that he would take it up. Now, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that he will go for a full impeachment operation in the Senate and bring in, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court for the trial. I think it means that he would take it up, meaning they would look at it with judiciary, because it has to be in judiciary in the Senate first, and then see where it goes. Now, it's really kind of fascinating, the language that actually is in the Constitution, because they're talking about upon determination that such officers have engaged in treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, we don't know what the definition of high crimes is, and we don't know what the definition of misdemeanors is, but impeachment is one of the various checks and balances, giving the Congress the tools for accountability. All right, so now we have to define what the House is really going to use in their text when Nancy schedules this vote. And whatever it is this now they're I guess they're talking about obstruction here. I don't know, or maybe it's obstruction along with quid pro quo. But how they're going to define that, is that in high crimes or is that in a misdemeanor? The other thing that will be very fascinating in all of this is that the top law enforcement officer of the land is the president himself. So, impeachable doesn't necessarily go to criminal behavior, because there's 3 types of conduct that constitute grounds: improperly exceeding or abusing the powers of the office. Well, a president has extraordinary power, and he certainly does as the top law enforcement officer. The other one is behavior incompatible with the function and purpose of the office. Now, what the heck does that one mean? And then 3 is misusing the office for improper purpose or for personal gain, which in this particular case would necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? His investments, whatever the word is, I've now forgotten it off the top of my head. So I don't know how you can fit whatever they decide, meaning the House decides that Trump has done wrong, into the first 2. Improperly exceeding or abusing the powers of the office, and behavior incompatible with the function and the purpose of the office. I don't know how you can fit that in there, because if you can, then we should have impeached Obama probably 60 times over.
Right.
So I'm as confused as I am about all the terror factions in Idlib and who works and who fights for who. I'm as confused as I can be.
Well, if we go back to 2017...
Emoluments. That was number 3. I was trying to think of that word. Emoluments.
Yep, the emolument. Yep, the clause. Here's the thing, Denise. If we go back to 2017, we had congresspersons calling for his impeachment shortly after he took office.
That very day.
Exactly. Without having any of this kind of information or doing any of these multi-million-dollar investigations that really showed us nothing. How is it that they think they have any credibility whatsoever?
Well, I was of the notion that she wouldn't bring this to a vote. And again, I don't know if this is a formal vote for impeachment procedures, the impeachment rules, just out of judiciary, or for the full House. We don't know all that yet. We have to see what she's going to propose. So I didn't think she was going to...
Let me ask you this, because I did see a headline, I think it was from MSN today, that said impeachment inquiry. Now, if a president is impeached in the House of Representatives, is it the direct result of an impeachment inquiry?
Yeah.
Or is that no, I'm not asking that as a silly question.
No, I know you're not. Otherwise, I would have answered it differently.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is the responsibility of the House of Representatives before an impeachment gets turned over to the Senate for the trial, is the term an impeachment inquiry, or is that what is taking place right now?
No, impeachment inquiry. No, impeachment inquiry is what is happening right now. Essentially, what is happening right now is gathering evidence to where it goes, I guess, from intelligence back over to judiciary under Nadler, and that is necessarily the part where it becomes essentially kind of like a grand jury.
Well, the headline that I saw today, and it was all I did was read the headline. I didn't get a chance to read any of the article. But the vote was for an impeachment inquiry, which I thought was already taking place.
It is. It is happening in the Intelligence Committee.
Is the news of the day then?
Well,
why is that even a headline?
And see, you have to be careful of these headlines because, I mean, headlines all weekend was Delta Force kills Baghdadi, which, as it turns out, they didn't. So, I don't read headlines. I mean, I look at it, but I
get that. But the point is, my question is about what the headline actually said. Inquiry, impeachment inquiry.
Which is where we are now.
Exactly. So all we learned from that particular headline is that she's going to take a vote on exactly what's taking place right now. That there hasn't been a vote on.
Correct. But if I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be, that essentially the Nadler Judiciary Committee has gone dark because they've turned it over to the House Intelligence under Schiff. Now, Schiff is the one that's issuing the letters and the subpoenas and the blah, 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 blahs. Now, once he's complete with all of that, which he's got at least another week and a half worth of people that are, compelled to come in and give testimony. Once all of that is complete, then we have to give the Republicans the opportunity to have access to all of those testimonies. Now, the Republicans have been part of the testimonies, but they don't have it in written form, which Schiff is keeping from them. They can go look at it in a SCIF, but they have to have an assigned proctor with them to do it. They can't take it back to their office and go down and have their staff and their lawyers and everybody else kind of look at things. So they can't do any of that. Much less has it gone to anybody in the White House. But having said that, I think from intelligence, it has to go back over to judiciary, because judiciary in both houses is where impeachment needs to be formally launched and voted. Necessarily what they say is coming out of committee, if you will. So having anything done prior to Thanksgiving is just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at all.
How critical, with one of your catchphrases that we use often on this show, in politics, timing is everything. How critical is it that you don't see anything happening before Thanksgiving for the Democrats?
Well, I don't know at what point they also leave. I don't know how many legislative days are left in the calendar for 2019, but the legislative calendar is going to hurt because we are operating still under continuing resolution, which means the 3.2% pay raise for the military is sitting there. They haven't gotten. We have military budgets that need to be approved. We have the USMCA, which is the trade agreement between the United States, Mexico, and Canada, that needs to be approved. So from a legislative standpoint, Pelosi's plate's pretty full, and she doesn't have a lot of days left. If I'm not mistaken, there may be only maybe 10 days worth of legislative activities that could even happen between now and the end of the year.
Well, there's no way they can be doing the work of the people when they're playing around with this damn witch hunt.
I don't disagree with you.
Constituents need to wake up to this. They really do.
Well, look, I just don't know how. If you've got any decency, and I think we spoke about this last week, if you've got any decency in the Democrat caucus, some of those Democrats have got to be saying, we got some other work here that we really need to be doing. And if they don't have that decency, then I would say that to these Republicans, I'd be go visiting some of their districts. In other words, if I was Jim Jordan or Matt Gaetz or Mark Meadows or any of these others, I'd be trucking my way over to some of these Democrats that could be in trouble in voting districts. And I'd be holding some town halls over there in their districts. Saying, let me tell you what your congressperson's not doing that they should be doing.
Yep, exactly. Hey, speaking of town halls, how did you like this weekend? I read an article where Biden held a town hall in front of dozens of people. Dozens.
I think
in South Carolina.
And I think a dozen was kind of a high school band or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was one of the dozens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The other dozens were out in the crowd, I think. What a hypocrite. What an absolute hypocrite.
Listen, the whole Biden thing was a test balloon and or a trial balloon. It was never meant to be. He was never meant to be a serious candidate.
Right.
He went out there originally hoping that he could get Obama's endorsement, which is never going to come. And so then that now puts the pressure on some of these other candidates, the Kamala Harris's and the Bernie Sanders and the Buttigieg's and Elizabeth Warren's and so forth and so on. Well, apparently even the DNC is not pleased with this either and where they're taking things, which I cannot believe that the DNC hasn't gone to Elizabeth Warren, say, Elizabeth, you're the one that's got the traction here, so we need to bring you back over to center here and behave like a good little girl, and this is where you need to go. But they had, Tom Steyer jumps in. They're even talking about Bloomberg jumping in, which tells you that they don't know their rear ends from page 5 in all of this.
Yeah, he's telling me. Yeah. So, hey, do you think Hillary's going to end up jumping in?
No.
Wouldn't that be just a disaster?
Well, I don't think that she will. She's already kind of blown her wad going after Tulsi Gabbard, didn't she?
Yeah. Yep.
And listen, there's too many unresolved things still about Hillary, least of which is the Clinton Foundation, least of which is the email thing. Because, I mean, that's still, her email thing is still in the news as recently as last week.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would say there's too many Hillary issues that are still at the surface that she cannot finesse. And no,
she is wanting so badly to be relevant.
Well, in some cases she is, as long as people say to her, like Philip Reines or Robbie Mook or some of her others, that she is relevant, then she thinks she is. So I mean, that's all that matters. If she thinks she is, she is.
Right. To some people,
she wouldn't have the money. And the DNC, they're not very happy with her either. She's got a whole bunch of Democrats, and I think including Schumer, who actually came out and said, Hillary, just go away.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't have the money to do it at this late juncture.
Who do you see, and we'll revisit this 30 times between now and next fall. Do you see the candidate in this field right now? And if so, who do you think it is?
Well, all things tell me right now that it is Elizabeth Warren. But I would say that at some point she may have a crash and burn here, especially when And I haven't seen it come out. I've been kind of waiting for it when she publishes her plan on how she pays for Medicare for all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Wall Street doesn't like her.
Correct.
And Wall Street wields a lot of power. So, you know, there still could be somebody else that could come in and surprise us.
Well, for a number of years, I've said that the threat to Trump would be Michelle Obama.
No.
And I think that threat or potential of a threat ended when Durham and Barr announced that this was going to be a criminal investigation.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay? I think that ended the threat of Michelle Obama.
I don't think there ever was one, because I think that they're having way too much fun. They're making way too much money, especially with these contracts. There's another book coming out. She's got one. He's got one with Netflix and blah, 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 blah. Why would you ever want to get back into that rat thing in Washington, D.C.? I don't see it.
Ego and vanity.
No, I don't see it.
Well, again, I felt that she was the true potential threat for a number of years. And I think that threat came to an end. At least for me, it did this past week.
Well, I think interestingly enough, in some of these debates, these Democrat candidates in one debate had nothing good to say about Obama. And then the very next one, they were all saying kind of nice things about Obama. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they got their marching orders.
Yeah, but what the truth is that they are rudderless. And the tea leaves are telling you that based on the monies that they have access to, as compared to the almost $400 million in the Trump war chest, they can't. I don't think they can compete, especially when Trump travels over to Chicago today and talks to the Law Enforcement Officers Association and just blasts Chicago.
Right. Hey, do you think there's a chance that he could take California?
No.
No way, huh?
No.
I don't know. He raised a lot of money when he was there.
No.
Do you think California is... Now, let me ask you this. What if Newsom gets kicked out of office? Do you think Trump could stand a chance then of taking California?
No.
Why not? Why do you think it's not possible?
It's an ideology. You can't defeat militant Islam's ideology. You cannot defeat the ideology in California. You can in maybe a couple of voting districts, but you can't throughout the entire state. I don't see it at all. I'd like to say...
I'm gonna keep hope that California has been such a disaster that the good people of California are going to get it right finally.
Well, I would say the good people, there are less and less of them because the good ones are moving out. They can't do it any longer.
Yeah. I keep waiting for Del Beccaro to move. Hey, does Buzz Patterson have any chance out there, do you think?
Whose district was he in?
9, I think.
Oh, was that Duncan Hunter's district?
I'm in my car. I'd have to look it up. And you got 3 minutes.
I think it is Duncan Hunter's district. No, he was California. He was District 52. Oh.
No, look up. I mean, we got a couple of minutes here. While you're doing that, I'm going to remind the listeners how to find your good work. So while you're looking that up, Ladies and gentlemen, founderscode.com. It's simple. Founders with an F. Founderscode.com. Go there. You can stick your email address in a little box that Denise has on her website. And what will happen when you do that is she will not sell your email address. What she will do is put you on a mailing list so that anytime that she publishes an article, you get it sent directly to your inbox. I do it. Anybody that's been listening to this show for a while is doing it. Tom Del Beccaro probably even does it. So, well, maybe he does. You send him your articles. But what'd you find out about Buzzman?
Hey, Buzz is actually District 9.
That's what I thought. All right, who's he going up against?
Let's see here. I'm kind of scrolling down here to see who he's up. I'm sorry, I lied. He's District 7.
Okay, then I was wrong.
Duncan Hunter was District 52, I think. I thought it was his district since Duncan's pretty much out of a job. Well,
maybe for next week, because we're running out of time. Maybe for next week, follow Buzz and see how he's doing out there. Okay?
Well, right now, I'll tell you what, the 405 is on fire. I've been up and down that 405 1,000 times in my life, and I know where these fires are. This is bad. This is just very bad. In fact, several elites have had to evacuate their homes, including Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had to evacuate his. I mean, it's bad. I can't even believe what I'm seeing.
Well, our thoughts and prayers, despite the fact that Democrats say that it's useless. Those of us that are conservatives believe that it is not useless, and we are certainly sending those thoughts and prayers to the people of California, regardless of where they sit on the political aisle. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. We hope that you will share this episode. We hope you'll like this episode. And let your friends and family know about the show. Denise, we got to go home. And
okay.
Next week.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us, and God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.